We are live. Hey, YC, it's Terry and the crew. Welcome to the weekly roundup. First, before I introduce our newest team member, Maria, is to let you know that beginning next week, we are moving our weekly roundup from Fridays to Thursdays, basically the same time. And the reason we're doing that there's a couple of reasons why we're doing it. One, Josh is going to be able to jump back on because he has Friday's a tough one for him. And then also we're kind of moving within the YC to what we're calling Flex Fridays, where a lot of the coaches, I don't have regular scheduled coaching clients on a Friday, so that I can use it as a spillover day if I need to make calls up, or if I'm doing like a extended call, like a 2 or 4 hour call, or if I want to skip town and drive, take a long weekend, right? That's the beauty of this. So that's what we're working towards in the YC. And I just need to do one quick little thing. I got to paste this. Okay. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Maria. And Maria, I'm not even going to attempt your last name because I don't want to butcher it. So you can give us the pronunciation of your last name. Maria's been with us now for about 6-ish months?
Yeah, since March.
Since March. And so I'll let Maria introduce herself and tell us what she does and what she brings to the YC, which I will tell you is a lot of awesomeness.
Thanks, Terry. So I'm Maria. My last name is Stevanovic. And my role at the YC is officially called the Client Success Navigator. So what I do is I find studios for us to partner with, whether they be clients that come to us directly or referrals or, hunting them out. And my role is essentially grow the business. And I do that by hosting the first free coaching call. And during that call, work on identifying what sorts of issues the studio owners are experiencing, what that gap looks like between their current state versus their potential future state. I offer coaching, and then if towards the end of the call, we agree that there may be a solution that the YC can offer at that point in time, I introduce our coaching program, and based on that conversation, which one I think would be the better fit based off of things like financial availability to, of course, pay for the program, what sort of benefit they're looking to gain out of coaching, what sort of time commitment they have to put towards coaching, because if you are a coaching client of ours, you'll know that it is a lot of work. So making sure that that they're fully bought in and that they have the capacity, I think is a good word, to put towards coaching.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I do.
So goodness, excuse me. And I did listen to one of Maria's calls for one of our new clients, because when she does close the sale, or signs the client up, and it is, let's call it is a sale, right? It is a sale.
Mm-hmm.
It's a service we provide, and somebody purchased it. That is the very definition of what a sale is. So I always listen to that call just to gain insight into exactly what Maria, and I know the other coaches do as well. And I was like blown away. It was so good. The way Maria does it and how she talks about it. And one of the reasons, you may be wondering, well, why can't the coaches do that? Well, we did it for quite a number of years. I've been doing these calls myself, and we just didn't have the close rate, partly because we're busy doing other things and we're focusing on our existing clients. And also because even though my background is in sales, it's like there's a different sales skill to that. So we brought in somebody who's been really trained well in sales. And we did that because we needed to grow our business. Sound familiar? Right? So maybe having someone on your team who is dedicated to, after the fact, if you're not closing them at the studio, or what most people do is part of the follow-up, part of the sales funnel is, and I am a huge proponent of, you guys know, getting on the phone. out in the Bay Area growing up, there used to be a game show on a local station out in San Francisco called Dialing for Dollars. And that's exactly what it is. It's dialing for dollars. And to Maria's point, the other thing she's doing is what's called cold outbound, where I know I was so impressed, Maria, when you told me that you had gone to LinkedIn and came up with 1,000 leads on LinkedIn that, I'm assuming it's like yoga studios, things like that. Then she asked each of us coaches to give her a list of like 50 studios in our geography. And, I banged that list out in like, I don't know, less than 20 minutes. So that's the other part of it, is actually doing cold outreach. So, Mary, before we got on this call, you were talking about, the problems and challenges that our studios are facing these days. Talk a little bit about that. Tell us a little bit about that, what you've seen in these calls you've been making, because you've made a lot of them now.
Yeah, I've been getting some good calls under my belt, which has been nice. Yeah, it's like I was saying earlier, it's always the same sort of group of problems that plagues all of the studio owners that end up on a free coaching call with us. And I'd say it comes down to 3 reoccurring issues. And the first is that they're not paying themselves a salary. Either they're paying themselves nothing or like a very limited salary. And it's gotten to a point where in a lot of cases, studio owners have had to take up a second job just so that they can pay the bills.
Yeah.
Which to me is super disheartening. Like when I hear that, I feel crushed, because I'm like, I know that they got into this business because they love the industry and they just want to be able to like live out their passion and their dream of like owning a studio, but they feel like they can't make it a full-time thing. Like it's not their only source of income. So that's definitely the most common one, I'd say. The second is that most studio owners feel like they're not getting enough people in the door. So one of the questions I actually added to our intake form, which is a form that everybody fills out before they jump on a free coaching call, I added a couple of questions to it. And 2 of the questions that I added are surrounding how many first-time visitors that studio had in the last 30 days, and how many visitors that studio had in the last 90 days. Just in case the last 30 days was somewhat of an outlier, we can use the 90 days to create an average and then use that number to demonstrate the impact that having a proper first visit flow, sales flow, really leads to members. Having that process in place and the impact that increasing your retention rate will have. And even before that, increasing the total intro offers sold to get people back in the door for a second visit. Because creating that experience, that yoga experience, that strategic yoga experience is what brings people back. And that's what creates students at that studio.
Yeah.
We know this.
Yes.
Right?
So, and that's one thing that pointed out on this call that I listened to is, doing the math right there in real time with them, saying, okay, you had this many visits come in, and right now it turned out they have enough people coming in. So it's not that they need more people in, it was, and it remains the retention problem. Mm-hmm. So, take their retention percentage, which is like X now, and if we can bring it to what we know is very realistic and very possible by putting things in place, bringing it to that level, the difference between just without any more new people coming in the door, just getting the people coming in the door, converting, it ended up about $24,000 additional to their bottom line in 1 year. And actually, I think I went back and recalculated because we forgot about the additional months. So it's not insignificant that just by moving the dial a little bit, it can have huge impact on the bottom line. And whether you're a single location, multiple locations, whether you have 15 space in the room, 25 or 50, that really doesn't matter. It's more about getting them in the door and retaining them and getting them come back and get on MRR, monthly recurring revenue.
Yeah. And I think that's been like the most impactful thing for me too, just to like be a part of that during that call and to demonstrate the value of our internal KPIs, which is what we get all of our clients to as a benchmark. It's like, hey, no, like if you sign up with the YC, like this is what we this is what we expect. Like this is what we work towards. This is a minimum, like 35% retention rate.
Yeah.
And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, like that's what we want to see. Like, you know, and I show them the numbers and it's always like, whoa, I could be making that much money. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, and
So
sometimes it could be like almost doubling your sales just by increasing your retention.
yeah, even just by like a couple of members, like you just see that number and the way that it like multiplies month over month. And, you know, one of them is coming to mind. We did that calculation and her annual revenue spiked up to like $777,000.
Yeah.
And she was just like
Yeah.
yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So it is interesting that they're not, we all think we all have these special problems and it's right, Carol and Nina, I mean, do you find that with in your own business and B with your coaching clients?
Yes and yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I was just something that you said, Maria, just I had a flashback of the early days of owning my studio, and I did not have a coach and did not even think about paying myself. And I had, you know, I actually taught at other yoga studios and I nannied part-time. I mean, I was, you know, and actually there was money to pay me. I just was scared.
Mhm.
And so when I started to get coaching and started to get a clear sense of like how this whole thing works, I started paying myself. And there's so much, like, you know, what we say, where your energy goes. What do we say? Where your focus goes, your energy flows. That
Mhm.
one. Yeah. And so there's something even just energetic about paying
Yeah.
ourselves, even if it's a small amount. Doesn't really even matter the amount for now. At some point, yes, but there's something to it. Yes, go ahead.
I always like to say this because for me, when I bought my studio, that was it. It had to pay
Right.
my bills.
Totally.
And I mean, I was in a fortunate position. I did buy an existing studio, even though it wasn't near what it ended up being.
Right.
I did pay myself a livable salary.
Mhm.
So it can, you know, it can be done.
Yes.
I was teaching more. I know, Carol, you and your original partner, you guys taught, like, between the two of you, all the classes in the beginning, right? Yeah. So, and that's not sustainable long-term, because that's the other thing we see is like a studio owner is doing everything and teaching the majority, if not all the classes, which not sustainable. And it's not good for the community too. Yeah, right. Because if you know, let's face it, not everybody liked my class. Can you believe it? There are people out there who like my class. So if you don't click with someone and you're the only one that's scheduled, that could be a problem. Oh my
Even
God.
if everyone loves your class, it's good to have different voices.
Exactly. All right. So funny story. Back in the day, I was teaching in one of the studios I was teaching at. There was this I call him an old curmudgeon. He just didn't like my class, period, end of story. And I think I pissed him off one time because I poked the bear a little bit. And I was still fairly newish. I had only been teaching a couple of years at that point. And so later on, I was just like, he's not hurting anything, just don't poke the bear. However, so then one day, it was so funny, is because back in the old days, and actually at the studio, there was no software. So you couldn't go on and see who was teaching. But then even when a lot of studios back in the day would just put teacher, they didn't put who the teacher was. They didn't have the teacher's name. So I'll never forget, the guy walks in, sees me at the front desk. I look at him, he looks at me. I said, "You got me tonight?" He says, "No, I don't." And he turned around and walked out.
Wow.
Serious. That's fun. Anyway. Um,
I'm glad you think it's funny now.
oh, I thought it was funny then. I thought it was funny then. Once I got it, I took no offense to it. I was just like, and he just turned around and walked out. Oh, and then the one thing that I did get upset about that did hurt is he had a party at his house, invited all the teachers except for me.
Ooh.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a fuck you, I think. But oh well, that was years ago. Anyway, so well, welcome to the team, Maria. We're excited to have you here. So just so you know, if those of you who are listening to this and are coaching clients, Maria will be occasionally contacting you just to check in and see how things are going and get feedback. And because just like you guys are tracking, with your member retention and, same thing here, someone checking in to make sure, things are going going well and have any questions and feedback and things like that. So don't be surprised if Maria pops into your Slack channel and sends you a message just, to check in and see how things are going. So again, we're excited to have her on our team, and those of you coming to the summit, which there are still spots available, Maria will be in real life. We'll all be in real life. So you get to meet Maria and Nina, even though she's been with us a little longer, she's going to be there as well. So, anyway, let's pivot to last week. We talked about the hallmarks of effective leadership. And recently you had a client call this week, Nina. Tell us a little bit about that, and let's chat about that.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So this is a client who is working on building up her classes. So her classes are underperforming. They're well under our benchmark of 70%, classes being at 70% capacity. And so what we looked at is A, the schedule, when are classes being offered, and B, the class offerings. And what we found is that there's many classes that are very similar. So there's, like a slow flow and a gentle flow and a restorative flow and a yin to yin flow. You kind of get the gist.
Yeah.
And then a few more. And so we looked at consolidating class offerings when we have classes that are kind of similar. Why don't we just have some kind of gentle flow option? And be really distinct and clear so that students have a clear sense of what the class is. And so we were good with that. We reduced the class offerings. I think we got down to 4 or 5 class offerings, which feels like a pretty healthy, would you agree, amount of styles to offer?
Considering I taught one style of yoga for years and years, it's like,
I know, exactly. Me too.
Right.
Exactly. Me too.
Yeah.
And so then we looked at the schedule, and we got down to what felt like a really nice schedule, and we ended the call and it was like, okay, great, there's a plan. And then she reached out, oh my gosh, I need to talk with you. I brought it to my team. She has a manager and a lead teacher, and they're very concerned, and they have a lot of, we can't let go of fusion flow. And so they all contributed to a spreadsheet. I'm looking at the spreadsheet and like my head's starting to spin. And they each have like 3 variations of schedules that could possibly work. 3 of them have 3 different. And so I just started to get this like spidey sense that, I'm feeling that some of this is around leadership. And the studio owner who bought her studio just in December, and she's shared with me that there's some other examples where she feels a little bit like that imposter syndrome of, do I really know what I'm doing? And is this really okay that I'm here in this position? And I so relate to that.
oh God, yeah.
Right. And so we started having a conversation about when and how do we seek counsel from our team, which I think can be really valuable. And there's certainly a time and a place for that. And then when are we just somebody's got to make the decision and be the leader and run this ship. And so how that looks. So we're in conversation right now about that.
Yeah. I think that it's like, when do you lean into and I just had the very similar experience with this, a client who's been open about a year, same thing. what's the difference between slow flow and gentle flow?
Mm,
Right. And it's a lot of it's, well, that's what the teacher calls it.
yeah,
So that's sort of like, I'm going to call it mistake number one,
yeah.
right? It's like you create the schedule. And if you're a vinyasa studio, you guys could, and I was not a vinyasa studio, but in working with vinyasa studios, I think basically it's like, there's three, either you can do like a slow flow and just a basic vinyasa, and then you could do like a power flow.
That's heated.
That's heated. Well, or with heated or non-heated, doesn't matter,
Right.
right? Because you can have a power flow class that's a more vigorous, more, may incorporate some arm balance, so, and that goes down to what we've talked about this a number of times, what the class description is,
Yeah.
teaching to what the class description is. So we did the exact same exercise, same thing, underperforming classes, classes at interesting times.
Mhm.
And I would say, well, tell me, why do you have a class at this time? Because it's just in a suburban location. It was an interesting, and she said, well, because of this, this, and this. And I went, okay, what if we move that, so sometimes it's like, maybe it's the time of the class. We've talked about this before, is knowing when the drop off is for kids, like in that morning time, that mid-morning-ish, whether it's like a 8:30, 9:30 kind of thing. We've also talked post-pandemic, you have more people working for home. So maybe a 10:30 a.m. class would work, right, nowadays. Anyway, so finding out the schedule, and then same thing, she was getting pushback, and she was like, was this the right decision? They're saying this, blah, blah, blah. So we just talked through it. And I said, well, what is the intent? And just reminding her of the why we did this. And then the other thing is, well, we need to add this class and we need to add this class. And I'm like, whoa, that's, like you said, the 70/70. It's like, we got to get these other classes before we bring in another style of class. What is the rule of thumb? When do you do that? Right? When do you bring in another class style? And how many different classes is too many? What do you, I mean, that's a plethora of choice, right? Carol, what do you think?
I think a lot of different things. A lot of things are going through my head. It's interesting what's coming up for me in this, because I had a client this week where we were actually talking about making changes to the schedule. And she said, maybe I should ask the teachers, because there are 3 people teaching the same class, but they do it in slightly different ways. And basically the class is great and she's happy with how they're teaching it. But there's something about with her student base, it doesn't seem to be clicking. And we thought it just needs a rebrand. Like if we could just call it something else and like get them, something called like kind of generic sounding right now, but if we could like give it a punch, maybe her students would be more interested in it. She said, maybe I should ask the teachers. And I was like, let's talk about how to ask the teachers. Because I think there's value in getting their input, but also not in a way that's like, I'm going to take everything that you're saying as like a word, right? Exactly. So I was like, I would probably present it in a way that's like, hey, we need to like rebrand this class. I'd love to get your input on what you would think. I'm going to take what you say into consideration when I'm rebranding. Like, I think there's a way to do it where you can like really get the input of your team, because maybe they have some really great ideas, but also you're still leading, you're still taking the reins. So I think there's a bit of that. So, and I've also had I've seen this in Nina before with other clients where it's like, they take something that we've done together, the studio owners are so into it, and then their managers are like, whoa, 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 because they don't quite have the same lens as when we've been working together and like going through all of these reasons. And so I don't know, I've run into that as well. And it's challenging from a coaching side, because you're like, well, we did this and it was like, yes.
And I almost started to get like swayed and squirrely eyed and like hypnotized by, oh, wait a minute, oh God. I'm like, wait, look, stop yourself, splash some water in your face.
And I think it goes back to, like you said, Carol, we do all this they don't understand what's going on at the back of the house kind of thing, the thought process that goes into we're not just taking spaghetti, throwing it in a wall and seeing what sticks, right? It's really, when we work with our clients, we'll taken a lot of different factors, right? When we're looking, particularly when it comes to scheduling and pricing and stuff like that. I mean, we take into consideration a lot of factors. So I think part of it is when we talk about when let's say you are changing your pricing, is having the why behind it. And then when you present it to the team, giving them that why. This is the reason why we are doing this. And so I think also it goes in how you present it to them. Exactly. And leaning into that. I just had a thought that just
Yeah, and we also talked about like, look, this is the result I'm trying to achieve.
Right.
And like, if you can contribute to that, like, I'd love to hear your ideas.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
To like, how can we get, like, one of the things I was talking about with a certain client this week was like, okay, here's the number that you need in each class to hit your revenue goal, like based on, per class rate that she's getting on average currently. And I was like, we could get your team to be like, okay, how do I get my class to that number? And whether it's, are you posting on Instagram? Are you encouraging people when you see them taking class next to you? Hey, I'd love to see you in my class. Like all the things we've talked about on the roundup a lot about how the teacher can get involved. But if they know a number, like, let's give them tools, or they could also have ideas. I'd love to hear your ideas. How do you get that number of people in your class? Because this is what we're solving for. Like, I need to make this much money to make the studio go.
Yeah.
The result is you bring people in or get that number in your class. So,
and we've talked about this before too, is sharing some of those KPIs, and those of you listening on key performance indicators, right? The things which we use to measure the success of a studio. And so sharing those, sometimes I think we get afraid to share some of those numbers. So the thing is that you can share numbers. We're not talking them, show them your profit and loss statement, right? We're just talking about, okay, this is a good one. This is how many people came in, and this is how many people we converted. This is how many I love this one. This is how many new members we got, but this is how many members we lost. Got team last month, we lost more members than we got. Right. And I think it's okay to share those numbers with the team so they understand that it is a business. So this is what was really, because when I just was down in visiting a friend down in Tennessee, outside of Knoxville. And I was working remotely down there this week for a few days because she has an amazing pool. And I just would float in the pool a while and then go and do some work and then come back, float in the pool a while, go and do some work. Anyway, we did a Zoom call with two of our really good, there were 4 of us that got to know each other really well back in the day when we all started practicing Bikram yoga around 2002, 2003. So anywho, we did a little Zoom call with them, one night, because Belle and I were together. We called Bevy and Heike. And of course, yoga is what our common fact, that's how we found each other, was through yoga. And so we were talking about yoga and this and that. And my friend Heike, we were reminiscing about teachers, like, oh, remember this teacher, remember. So remember, teachers, your students will remember you. It's like we say, when aren't you the yoga teacher? You are always and forever the yoga teacher. So we remember to say about teachers. And I said, well, what about this teacher? Like, because she had bought the studio where we all first met. Oh, she's, she's so, she just is like, she just talks about business all the time, and this going on and on. My friend Heike is going on, and this other teacher I go to, she gets about being yoga, and her name's Tara. Tara just doesn't understand about being a yogi and da-da-da. And I had to zip my mouth. I had to bite my tongue, because it was like, I wanted to say, it is a fucking business, Heike. Right? In her mind, it's like, oh, it's what a lot of people think. You're a yoga teacher, you teach yoga, you have to charge a little for it, but that's it. But again, it was just it's so funny that is out there, which is why Maria is like, people say they don't pay themselves because they don't think it's a business. And so that was, I don't know where I was going with this, but that was just really, really interesting about that whole, about sharing the numbers so that they understand that this is a business. And I, so, and, all of that stuff. So anyway, yeah, it is a business. And when, what was I gonna say? I think I was up too late last night. I know, I can't remember this. It was,
I want to just underscore what you said about
Okay.
sharing these KPIs with staff and teachers. What I've seen is that it enrolls them. They're like, what? I can't believe that our retention is not better. I had no idea. And it gets them actually engaged and behind this process.
that's because we see it a lot when we talk about at the sales trainings, the yoga sales boot camps we do, is they remember the people they see all the time, but they forget, they don't realize that your student population turns over like every 4 to 6 months. Your studio is constantly churning over. They're remembering the people that have been there forever, and there always is. I mean, there always are those people. Carol, I bet you could probably think of some people that are still that from what way back.
20 years.
20
Mhm.
years. Yeah.
20.
Right. So
Yep.
we remember those people. So they only think when they think about it, when they say, oh, I didn't realize that, is because they're not making the connections with the people that are newer. Right. And we've talked about that. It's like we're trying to improve that initial client experience. But remember, we got to nurture them those few months, because particularly if you have teachers that maybe only teach, a couple of classes a week, it could be a couple of months before they see a newer client. Or maybe they see them when they sub a class on the time that person takes. Right. Which is I'm always an advocate for, if you don't know somebody in your class, introduce yourself. Like I said this before, I was so impressed with this place I've been going to now. It's not yoga, because again, as I can't find a yoga studio here that I like, and because I've been so underwhelmed. But I went to a session, I'd been going, I don't know, a couple of weeks or something. It was a Saturday. I was there, and the woman who, her name's April. She marched right up to me, looked me and said, hi, I'm April. I don't know you. What's your name? And I saw her do that, a couple, 2, 3 people around the room. She just marched right up to them and asked. And I was blown away, because that so rarely happens, that someone that I've been in a studio and I'll go in and out, nobody said boo, which is, sad. So that's part of it too, by helping and sharing the numbers. So kind of going back to where we started, is soliciting the input is a great way. I love what you said, Carol, is this is what I'm thinking of. This is what I need to do. This is why. Give me your ideas. And then, but once you put it together and come to the decision, that's when you have to stick to it. Unless and someone brings up a very legitimate thing, which occasionally does happen. Right. And they're like, I feel because blah, 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 blah. It's like, I had not, so there are times when maybe they give you a very valid thing, as opposed to, oh, I just don't like this. Which kind of goes back to defining your class styles from the get-go, for those of you who don't have a studio. And also, I think part of what the client I was talking about is, we looked at, okay, what are your core values? And you just say, look, these are the classes that are aligned with what I feel like our core values are. And Carol, you have a client who is not interested in doing anything remotely power. Right? You know who I'm talking about, right? And that's what she's decided. Her studio is this type of experience. So very, very well defined. What is the type of experience they want? And these are the classes that support that experience. And a power class, a hot class, does not support what her vision of her studio is. So I think that's really powerful too, is yoga has become, it's just such a catch-all. So when you say I teach yoga classes, well, nowadays we have to be a lot more specific. What type of yoga? What do people expect? That kind of thing. So, yeah. Any other thoughts?
And to loop it all back together,
Yes, please. We love looping.
where our focus goes, our energy flows.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, kind of all of us pretty much came from the Bikram world. That was one of the brilliant things about it, was like you knew what you were getting when you walked into the class.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
It's consistent.
It was consistent. So I always say that as a model. It's like you don't not, Bikram is one aside. You can still have vinyasa classes that are not a sets. However, make them consistent so that if I'm taking Carol's Power Flow class and Nina's, they're similar. A lot of times we run into, like I was at an on-site several months ago, and they had their signature flow class. I took 4 of them. None of them were the same. And I said straight up to the owner, I said, you have a product problem. So that's the other thing when you're looking at the numbers of I've done this with several clients now, looking at the numbers. Another client, the one class at 9 a.m. class, a couple of days a week was packed, but then the other days it wasn't. And it was the same class style. Well, it turned out the couple of the teachers were not teaching the class they were supposed to be teaching.
Mm.
So,
Yeah. I mean, look at Modo, right? Just I've been with Modo for 16 years and like a really long time. And
what, since
no
you were
matter
12?
which studio you go to, thank you. No matter which studio you go to, like anywhere in the world, I would even venture to say, the Modo sequence is going to be the same.
Yeah, that's like Bikram.
Right.
Actually, it came out.
Yeah.
It came out of Bikram.
It did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same world.
And that's like you said, that's the beauty of an international or national franchise. However, you can create that experience in a single location.
Absolutely, you can. Yeah, 100% agree.
100%. Yeah. God, I swear, I'm having so many senior moments right now. I also go ahead.
Can I get your hive mind on this? Because I'm still thinking about how to help with my client. So when I asked her, okay, what's the difference between slow flow and your regular unheated vinyasa class? And she said, well, slow flow is you're holding postures for like 4 breaths. And the regular vinyasa class, you're moving breath to breath. I mean, you're moving, one posture to breath to movement. But I asked, is that true? Is the whole vinyasa class that way? Or isn't there like a beginning that's slower and an ending that's slower? And I don't know, am I asking the wrong people? Because this is
No,
people.
I think I've heard that like with a classic, and any of you certified vinyasa people out there, maybe you can answer this, because again, I'm never did vinyasa training, but my understanding from my vinyasa studio clients is that the traditional vinyasa flow is breath to movement, inhale, inhale, up dog, downhill, and then you just flow through, and you're not really in, warrior, and then this, and as opposed to more of a static hold.
Right. But
right.
Then there's power yoga, which is faster and more dynamic, and actually even power can mean a lot of different things.
Yeah, power can mean a lot of different things. But I think with slow flow, I think what we came to with some of my clients is that in the vinyasa flow class, it is a breath to movement class. Gentle flow or slow flow is postures are held a little longer.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so it's in the description. It's like, it's a slower paced class, moving more slowly, holding postures for a longer period of time. And then like a power flow it's a dynamic, heart pounding, breath to movement, may include some arm balancing, things of that nature. It's more of a dynamic sequence. Carol, jump in anytime. What are your experience there?
Exactly what you're saying. I mean, yeah, I'm semi new to the vinyasa world myself. I'm still like a newbie taking it for the last couple of years. But yeah, I think what I've seen with clients is, even the description of being like Sunday sunrise flow versus like Monday evening flow. Like I don't understand, so to me, yeah, consolidating and making it clear. And I mean, you do need to be in those classes and see that things are being, well, you should have an SOP, you should have a system for it. Your staff should understand, like, if you're doing the power flow class,
These are the elements.
yeah, the elements,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be like these exact postures. It
Right.
can be, but the expectation of, a heart rate climb here and then this at the end. And I would go so far as to like the lighting in the room, I think should be consistent. The
Music.
type of music, exactly. Like those things should be defined so that you don't have that like one day at 9:30, the same class is getting all these people in, and the other 9:30 on another day, same class, like what's happening? Well, they might not have this sort of roadmap from you to help stay consistent. And I think it's really important.
Yeah, I know where my thought was that I lost a little bit ago. To circle back to Nina, what you were saying is when you do have, it's like when you do lean into your leadership, and we saw this absolutely at an onsite we were at several months ago, where the manager just straight up didn't like it. And we helped coach the owner to how to deal with that. And the manager decided to leave. She quit.
Mm,
And that was okay.
totally.
It was okay because by the end of the day, we had her shifts covered, we had a plan, and it was like a breath of fresh air because this manager was fighting her on everything. So when she leaned in and stepped up to, this is why we're doing it, this is why it's important, and she was just not on board with it. And that sometimes does happen.
It's a natural, actually, result sometimes. Leadership. And then side note, it was great because the manager quit.
Yeah.
Which I think is preferable than firing someone, but sometimes you have to do that.
Yeah. Typically we see people self-select, which is, I guess, the 21st century term for quitting.
Right.
But yeah, so that it's okay. And I think sometimes, I mean, I know I did at times, it's like, oh my gosh, I don't want, if I lose, what happens if this person goes, blah, blah, blah. We think about, and this was certainly the case, and it was really a real world coaching situation. It's like, okay, let's work through this, because she had known for a while that this wasn't a good fit, but was like, I can't, how do I make this work? So and keeping someone on past their shelf life can be detrimental to businesses. And so
Sure.
it was, it's a short-term pain, as it were. Yes, you might have to do more for a while, whatever, but we shouldn't let something like that stop us from doing what is necessary for our business to grow and thrive. For sure. Yeah. I have another thought. So I was listening to a political commentary. I'm not going down a political rabbit hole here. I'm not. However, the commentator was talking about, we actually talk about sales. So the commentator was talking about how in this country, the United States, that people vote emotionally and then back it up with logic. So it's like, it could be the most ridiculous candidate, but there's emotional attachment to that candidate. And then they'll say, I'm voting, and then they rationalize why. Okay. So we say that, and it's the exact same things in sales. We say it in the sales team, people will make make buying decisions emotionally first, then back it up with logic. And as I oftentimes say at the sales training, you guys heard me, Carol and Nina, you both heard me say it. Does anybody really need a Hummer? Right? You really need it. I mean, maybe, or even, okay, how about this one? Does anybody really need a Tesla? I mean, if you're so concerned about the, like totally concerned with the environment, and I've known a few people like this, they don't have cars.
You wouldn't drive.
Wouldn't drive. Would not own a car. You would either take public transportation, you would have a bicycle, whatever it is. I'm just saying, we back up, I am so, I have to have those pair of shoes, they're perfect for this, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I could do that. I had so many pairs of shoes back in my corporate days.
Oh, I'm really good at it too.
Yeah. So
really good.
Yeah. So what got me when I listened to this, and I've been thinking about this, and as I've been looking at websites and stuff like this, is like, I've started to realize that sometimes the websites are like boring. It's like, buy this thing. Well, why do I even want to buy it? That's why we talk about with the website. What's the hook, right? So we got to make it so what people can see on your website. And this was a problem with one of our clients we just found, is like, yes, we need to get more people in their studio. They definitely do have a lead problem, and we're working on that. And they were thinking, well, the ads aren't working. Well, it turns out the ads are working. They're working just fine. There's lots of people coming to the website. You can see it based on the paid traffic, way more. But they're not clicking the button. So that's a different problem. So now we've revamped it and made it more about that hero's journey, the client journey, what they have to be able to see themselves doing it. Transformation, right? They have to be able to see themselves doing that thing, as opposed to just, it's the best deal.
Oh yeah, for sure.
What do you think about that, guys?
100% agree. I just bought a $10,000 mountain bike because I was like, if I buy this mountain bike, I'll be able to do that. I'm like, sold. Don't even care how much it costs. Can I afford it? No. But did I rationalize it? Yes.
Well, you can maybe see it back here. That's a sewing machine over there. That's almost a $4,000 sewing machine. Yeah. And do I need a $4,000? Yes, I need a $4,000 sewing machine. Because it does these specific things for quilting, and there are things that really make my quilting better.
Yeah.
But I also have an old Singer Featherweight, which is like it's like a little machine. It's really actually quite cute. Comes in a little suitcase. It looks like a little suitcase. And I've sewed on that before as well. And I've made quilts on that. So all you really need to make a quilt is a machine. Well, actually, you don't even need a sewing machine. You just need needle and thread.
I have an example.
Yeah.
Money for something that I probably don't necessarily need, but it's like the money becomes secondary.
Yeah.
If that. So I joined a group for women over 40 to balance hormones and gut health. And at first I'm like, oh, I can just do this on my own. Like, let me see what they're covering. But there's something so powerful about being in a container and having a coach. And it's an 8-week program, and it's been so powerful. And it's like, it doesn't even matter. It was $3,000. I don't even care. I don't even care because I feel so amazing. And then I was like, oh, I'm surely not going to join the next program, which is 6 months. And I think it's like $5,000. And now I'm like, yes, I'll be joining that group too. Because there's something, so it's just like, I feel so, I don't even care. She could have charged me $10,000 and I wouldn't care because I feel so good.
Well, and that's exactly the
That's
business.
awesome.
Yeah, that's the business we are in, right? It's like,
Totally.
Yes.
it really,
That's yoga at home.
yes,
You could, but there's an experience.
there's that experience. We talk about this all the time. When someone goes to quit, want to cancel their membership, it's like, if they say time and money, that's bullshit. It's because you haven't proven the value. Because like you said, if it was really, really, they would find the time, find the money to do it.
Exactly.
Because they're feeling better. Like you just said, the cost becomes irrelevant. Unless, and of course, if there's some catastrophic event, we always have the asterisks there. However, but yeah, even then, people will find ways,
Yeah,
like, anyway, so yeah, I love that.
yeah.
I was watching some videos that Josh posted in our Slack channel for our team, and I'm like, to me, mountain biking just like going over all those bumps and roots and this, it just doesn't look really fun to me, Maria.
Yeah, it's fun. You know what it is though? It's the confidence that you get. It's the experience. It's like, it's not, yeah, it's just, it comes down to like how you feel after.
The endorphin rush, yeah, absolutely.
It's the endorphins, it's the confidence. You look back on something and you're like, holy shit, I just wrote down that?
Yeah.
That's insane.
I remember a time when I hadn't been skiing. I wasn't an avid skier, and I went skiing one time with a friend and we somehow we were in Tahoe, which anybody been out there, the mountains are, like 8,000 feet. Which is why I laugh when they talk about mountains in like Ohio. I'm like, yeah, no, you guys don't. Or actually we're Massachusetts. Anyway, we somehow got on a Black Diamond lift. And I had been skiing like all of like 3 times in my life. But we made it down. We made it down. We should have just stayed. I think that was arrogance of youth. I don't think I'd do it now, but we could have stayed on and gone back down, but we didn't. And we did it very slowly. Spent a lot of time sliding down on my butt, but we made it down. Anyway. All right. So we talked about leadership. We've talked about a lot of things. Any other thoughts, team? Anything? Well, speaking of sales, I don't know if you saw the email and the post in the YC next Thursday. Is it next Thursday? What day is it? The 22nd, right, Carol? Yeah. I will be, and coaches, if you're welcome to join if you'd like, I will be live in the network, the Mighty Network. And one of our members, Francis Ross, had said, hey, anybody want to get together and practice, the sales, selling your intro offer? And I was like, yeah, let's do this. So I'm just going to go over a few things quickly. And then we are going to actually do live role play, where it's going to be a live training session where you're going to be we will role play. And so that you are very confident saying, hey, Nina, I see you did a drop-in. We are so excited you're here. Actually, what most people do is our new membership special. And for you today, it would be only $20 for a whole month of yoga. Are you going to say anything? And then zip it. Yes.
Oh, right. I thought
That's okay. So
my line.
you forget
Line.
Anyway, so that it's going to be like that. We're going to be selling, learning, and then but also what we like to call flipping resistance is, and just high level flipping, just real quickly, flipping resistance is, we like to say flipping resistance instead of overcoming objections. So flipping resistance is turning the reason why they don't want to do the thing into the reason why they do the thing. A good example, how many of you ever hear this with a drop-in? Oh, I just want to try a class. Actually, Carol, that's why we recommend insert your offer, because it gives you a whole, whatever the length of time is, to try as many classes as you'd like. Right? So those are the kind of things that we're going to actually go back and forth about. You're going to do it so that, because it's a good point, if you're not confident in being able to do that, then you can't expect your team to be confident in it. So you need to be, as the leader, confident in being able to get people on a habitual yoga practice. So we'll be doing that live in real life next week. All the details are in the YC. An email went out. And yeah, just come and show up and we will do that. It's going to be super fun.
Can you say the time again?
It is
2 Central.
Central, 2 p.m. Central Daylight Time, next Thursday, the 22nd. No, it's not 2 Central. It's noon.
Oh, on my calendar it's saying 2.
Really? Because on mine it's saying, oh, hold on.
So many time zones.
I know, it's confusing.
It is confusing. Let me look. Oh, you're right. It is. No. It's, oh, shoot. No, yeah, no, it's noon.
It says noon in the network.
Yeah, it's noon. Yeah, it is.
Noon Central Time?
Noon.
Yeah.
I scheduled 90 minutes. Yeah. Oh my God, this is where you have this whole night time
Yeah.
zone thing. Yeah, so it's 12 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time. And you don't necessarily, if you know, you don't have to be on it for the whole time. If you want to, you're more than welcome to. But if you just can pop in for 15, 20 minutes, pop in for 15, 20 minutes. I don't know why it's on your calendar.
I don't know either. That's so bizarre. But
Yeah.
yeah, noon works for me too.
Okay, phew. Because otherwise it would have it would have gone into one of my coaching clients, which is not good. So yeah,
I
so
haven't followed that, but I'm gonna tell some,
yeah, tell some of your peeps.
and it'll be recorded so they can.
Yeah,
watch
it'll be recorded. It will be
More fun to be
recorded.
there live, of course.
So yeah, so we got that next week. And then, as I said, at the top of the hour somewhere, we still have space at the summit. It's still, you can still sign up for that. It's going to be super fun. If you want any info, talk to anybody more about it, you can reach out to Maria and she'd be happy to jump on a call with you. And also for those of you listening who are not on, don't have a coach, and you're interested in finding out about what that entails, again, Maria's in the network. You can reach out to her, DM her in the YC, and just, get on a call with her and see what we're about. Right? Okay. Any final thoughts, team, and I did say, yes, did I tell you did I say we're moving to Thursdays? Yes, I did. God, I got to start making notes so I don't repeat myself.
Next Thursday.
We'll see you all next Thursday, same time, different day.
So we'll do.
And Josh will be on the call, so.
Great.
Cool beans.
All right.
All right, everybody, have a wonderful rest of your day, heading into the weekend. And yeah, post your comments below. We're always here to help and support you. And all boats rise with the tide.
Have a good weekend, everyone.
All right, thanks.